Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz Interview Series with Kansas City jazz organist and composer Ken Lovern. He is gearing up for the Charlie Parker celebration August 17 to 29, 2017, right here in Kansas City, and he is always busy at that thriving Green Lady Lounge, giving the good music out to the packed houses of fans. He talked about the significance of recognizing Bird during this time, his involvement in the celebration, and so much more. Ken's always a delight, so get to know him and dig this interview, my friends.
So let me go ahead and start off and ask you this. Charlie's been gone for a long time, and obviously in the realm of jazz, his sway has been pretty strong, not only over jazz, but over music. Why do you think it is so important for us here in Kansas City to pay homage to him and to keep this memory of him going so strongly?
Well, he's just such an international jazz hero. Even if you travel the world and you say you're from Kansas City, a lot of people are, they'll say jazz, Charlie Parker. I think it's a part of just as Kansas City. Kansas City's always been a music town, but Charlie Parker is probably our biggest single musical export to the world. I think it's important to honor that. He was sort of an intersection of where blues and jazz kind of came together, and that's continued in Kansas City. When people play, the blues musicians in Kansas City, a lot of them have some jazz elements in their playing, and there's a lot of, you see, the people from Trampled Underfoot, all those people, and very successful in the blues world, And
yeah.
Part of it is they have a little bit of that jazz influence, and the jazz musicians have a little bit of the blues influence. And so some of that stuff that Charlie Parker pioneered harmonically is certainly important, but also sort of just genre-wise, he kind of was in between the jazz and the blues stuff in a lot of ways. He played blues progressions, but played them, kind of brought the Tin Pan Alley songwriting 2-5-1s to him, and then some of the stuff he caught from Art Tatum in terms of harmonically, and so I think it's important to honor that, and it's still relevant. That's the thing. I mean, you talk to any jazz musician, with very few exceptions, they'll all say, they shed Charlie Parker, and it's still the language.
The one thing that we had the benefit of with Miles Davis, he was one of the only ones from that era that really had such a big name that we got to see on 60 Minutes, see an interview, see how he responded to his influence. And I think as much as he played it off that he didn't get into it, I think there was a part of him who was pretty happy that he did usher in these levels of music and these sub-idioms, so to speak. What do you think Charlie would do if he was around and someone said, man, look at all of this. They're flying all these people in. We're getting Sullivan, Devon. We got all this action. All these clubs are celebrating you. What do you think? What do you think Charlie's perception of his influence and what he did would be?
I have no idea is my first answer to that. I know a little bit about his personality and life, but I'm not even sure how true some of that is. It's all secondhand information. I think he might be a little bit surprised that 50, 60 years later, how relevant he still is. You mentioned Miles Davis. I think Miles was always ready to move on to the next thing, right?
Yeah. Yep.
He was always ready to move on. He's like, I love that music, it makes me quiver when I think about it, but I don't want to play it again. It's already, I already played it, right? That was sort of Miles's attitude. And Charlie Parker might have some of that too. Those guys are innovators, and innovators are always on the edge. And so he might be like, well, that's great, but, get on with making today's music. If I was going to guess, I bet if he was still alive, he would have moved on in some ways, kind of the way Miles did. Miles moved on several times.
Absolutely. So the week, or this long stretch of days, is going to be a citywide celebration. What are you going to do yourself to celebrate, to be a part of the action?
Well, I'll be playing my gigs at the Green Lady, and we always play some Charlie Parker tunes, but we'll play more. We always play a few more Charlie Parker tunes this year. 5 years ago, kind of when we started doing sort of informal Charlie Parker things, we'd do 5 or 6 years ago, we'd just play all Charlie Parker tunes in one night, Yeah. And we probably won't do that, but we'll be playing more Charlie Parker stuff, and then I'm going to get lucky enough, Devon Pentecott's going to come play next Friday at the Green Lady, that Friday, August 25th. He's going to come play with a trio of mine downstairs in the Orion room. Our gig's 8:30 to 12:30, and he'll be on one of those sets. that'll be Todd Strait and Rod Fleeman and myself. So that's going to be a lot of fun, because those guys are all real great supportive musicians, and so I'll be lucky enough to play with Devon. I got to play with him a couple times last year with OJT, and I got to hear him play with some other groups. And you probably heard other people talk about it, but he's just an amazing musician, and he's really good at fitting in with the whatever the existing situation. I think that's part of what made him so popular, is he can do his thing, and it's amazing. But he'll also, when he's playing with the Kansas City bands, he'll figure out their thing and totally communicate with and be appropriate for what that band does. I saw him do that. One night I saw him play with Lonnie McFadden, Brom Winans, and Stan Kessler. So with Lonnie, they're doing sort of that high energy show thing. And then I went over to the Majestic and heard him play with Brom, and they're playing, older style jazz, like first half of the 20th century. And he fit in with that, Nice. And then went and heard him with Stan Kessler at the Blue Room, and they were playing all original music, and he read Stan's chart.
Hopefully Sullivan's going to bring that gusto in as well, and it should be a good year, man, for sure.
Look, I've looked at some of his stuff on YouTube, and he's a great piano player. I heard him play organ on one thing, so who knows? Maybe at some point we'll get him up on organ. Yeah,
that would be awesome, man. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Ken, thanks for taking a minute out to talk to me about it, and have a blast, man.
Yeah, it should be a good celebration. They got a lot of good events planned. That Folly show is something that's going to be special. Should be a really cool year.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to it, man.
It's a pleasure. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to yet another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in KC, New York, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Ken for his jazz, his time, his stories, and all of that dedication to the scene here. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino on the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com. And for everything Neon Jazz, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.